Hi everyone and welcome to this tutorial on TouchDesigner. This one is going to be about creating this effect, so this Art Deco kind of pattern. So if you take a look at a little bit of the different patterns that exist, I'd wanted to achieve this kind of pattern, but also to animate it with some music. So just to give you an idea of the result, here's the example I created before.
Here's a dance you want to do. Let me introduce to you. Posing.
Okay, so as you see, this is a very simple animation, but I will show you how you can do this with TouchDesigner, and it's mostly by using tops and chop. So chop for the sound and tops to create the shape, and also we will animate it with the sound. So I will start fresh and create just another project inside my TouchDesigner file. So here you go. There you go, project 2, and clean this up. So the first thing we're going to do is create our basic shape. So to create our basic shape, what I used is a circle right here. And then you are going to change the radius. So we're going to use a radius of 0.3 and 0.5 to create this shape exactly. And then we're going to change some of the colors. So border colors to create the kind of gold effect. This is a value. I'm just reading my notes right now because it's really precise value, but you can basically use any value of color you want. But just to create exactly the same effect, here you go. So this is the border color. And then we're going to change also the width. So here we go. We're going to go with as you can see, just let's go a little bit over that. I will be using exactly the same value as well. So that's the value I used. As you can see, also our circle has a bit of a problem because it's really pixelated. So let's go into comments and change this value for maybe 1280 by 1280 if we want to export a square. And then the final thing we're going to do is bring down the fill alpha. So this is one very simple circle, but what we're going to do, as you can recall on this shape, is you're going to create basically 4 circles to create this kind of branch effect. If I can say that this is branches anyway in the pattern. So we're basically just are going to create multiple copies of this circle and composite them one on top of another with a different angle. So to do this, we're going to use a comp. So a composite, sorry, not a comp object. We just composite, and then we're going to create just one thing before. We're going to use an over. So basically any items will be on top of each other. And then we're going to create some variations on this shape. To do this, I use the mouse wheel button, and then I'm going to click on transform. And I'm going to orient these circles in different ways. So this we're going to rotate it and on a certain pivot point. So basically the pivot point is the place in the shape where we're going to rotate. So for an example, this one is going to be rotated minus 4.5 degrees, but it's exactly in the middle. So as you can see, this gives you this result. What I would like to do is pivot around this point, which is not exactly this, which is not the center of the circle. So to do this, we're going to pivot around a point where much more closer to the side right here. So I'm going to use 0.1. So 0.5 would be in the middle, zero would be there, and 1 would be there. So as you can see, it's not exactly perfect because we're basically moving around another element, but it's it's not exactly perfect because we're not like exactly on this point. We're more like right there, but it's really good enough for the effect we want to create. We just want the point to be outside of the circle right there. So minus 4.5, just let's go just right back there. And then we're going to create two other variations on this of this circle. So basically, I'm just going to copy and paste that twice. Bring these right there and bringing them into the composition right there. I'm going to already add a null at the end. So this null is going to be displayed so we can see as we work, we can always see our result. This one doesn't move at all. This one is going to be minus 4.5. Maybe we can organize them like that. So we're going to have minus 4.5, 0. As you can guess here, this is going to be 4.5. And the last one is going to be 9. Here you go. So this is the basic shape. I know it might not look exactly as you might have thought, but basically what we're going to do is just crop the image to keep the shape we want. But the good thing about that shape, in any way, is that we're going to be able to animate by moving these angles that we just created right there. And by moving these angles, we're going to be able to move them with the music. So this is how we're going to create our audio reactive part. But for a moment, just concentrate on the shape in itself. So let's now add another composite top. So composite top right there. And this one is going to be on multiply, so we're not going to change anything on that. And we're going to use a circle to cut our shape. So just use another circle. So as you can see, the multiply basically, just before, change the resolution to the first resolution we had. As you can see, we're basically cutting the shape, following this shape of the circle. That's what the multiply does. It uses the white in this image to cut the shape on this one. And what we want to do is just bring the circle in the corner so we can cut the shape, but using the arch of the circle to achieve this kind of effect where they're not going to be they're not going to end on one straight line, but more in a kind of circular manner. So to do that, we're just basically going to change some parameters in the circle. So now it's 0.4. We're going to go a little bit under that, more like 0.29. And we're just going to bring our circle to the left and a bit higher right there. That's almost it. Maybe a little bit lower right there. Okay, and then again, maybe right there. Okay, so now that we've our first shape, let's add the other part of the shape. So basically, we're going to start by using this part, and then we're going to create the mirror of this shape. And we're going to tile all those shapes to create our pattern that we saw earlier. So first things first, let's just use a transform so we can center our image right now. So transform right here, and basically what we're going to do is trying to center it more or less like that, just so we can then mirror our image and place it over the first one. So we're going to use it over. You can also use a composite and use over. The only thing is that the simple over like this only have two inputs. So that's why in the first place I didn't use it. I use a composite top, but you can always use just a simple over if you have two shapes. So now to create our mirror, we're going to take this first shape. As I explained earlier, I just click on the mouse wheel. Just a little tip, you can always use the middle mouse button or the wheel button. Don't really know how to name it, but you can basically use this button to create a new branch if you like. And so just keep going. We're going to use -1 right here. So this is the mirror of this first image. And that's it. So we have the beginning of a shape. It's not exactly the shape we'd like to have because it's kind of tall, maybe not large enough, but we could basically change the angles right there. Or another very quick way to do this would basically be to just use a transform and scale it. That's what we're going to do. So using a transform, so I right-click right there, use another transform, and we're going to scale it a little bit right there. So this is more of a, since our shape is going to be tiled, we want to be almost as we want to like be almost as large in the X and Y axis, since it's going to be a square shape that so it's going to be able to create square shape and then to be tiled in an infinite matter to create these this kind of pattern. So the last thing we're going to do before creating all of our tiles is just add we had a little dot right there. So this also is going to be animated. So we're going to place the circle right there. So I use a over again, and simply using a circle. So again, I'm going to enter some of these parameters just by looking at my notes, especially for the colors. Just what you can do also, if you're like me and a bit lazy, you can just copy this parameter and basically paste the values right there. Or you can paste an expression, but I don't really need to create a link, but you could if you want. Right there. And then we're going to, of course, change the radius of this shape. It's a little bit large. Okay. And bring it a little higher. Like that. So this is kind of good, I think. I think we're going to stick with this shape right there. Okay, so since we have one shape right there, we're going to create our tiling effect so we can repeat this shape as much as we want. So as I said, we want to use some kind of square tiles so we can tile them over and over again and you don't see any break in the pattern. So to do this, we're going to use a lot of tiles and transform. So let's start by transforming this one, bring it a little bit larger, just so we can take a larger portion of the image. Maybe like this is good. Then we're going to use a tile top. So the tile is going to create by default. In this one, we're not going to change anything. We can basically crop elements if you want, but we're not going to do this right now. But this is basically just create a tiling effect with our elements. But since it splits in 4, and what we want is more of a alternate pattern. So like this, we're going to do a little bit of changes. So again, using over, And this one is going to be with another transform. So as you can see, we're placing this one in the middle, and since all these elements is a 50% in X and Y, we're going to just basically scale this one down to 0.5. And here you go. And finally, to create even more tiles, we're going to use another transform, so another scaling element, so we'll see just right after that what we're going to do, and another tile. So, okay, so this is where it gets interesting. As you can see, the pattern is kind of broken because we're missing some elements. But if we zoom in this, or basically scale this element, so we're going to cut some of our patterns, we're going to be able to create a pattern without breaks and then tile this one up more and more again if we'd like to. So as you can see, we just basically have to scale right there up to a point where our elements just fits. So like that. And then the great thing about this one is that you don't need any more of the transform and placing over before tiling. Now you can just insert another tile. And it just works. So as you can see, this works. We can basically copy paste it if you'd like to, and create even more tiles. Why not? And that's it. Now we have our pattern. So now that we have our pattern done correctly, last thing we're going to do before making it interactive and mostly audio reactive, in fact, is just cut a shape inside it. So like right there, I cut a circle. So I think I'm going to do exactly the same thing just to show you how this can be done. So it's basically the same as what we've done just right here. So it's a composite element with a multiply just to cut our shape. So if I insert composite and a circle, white circle, and then I can use it like that. Of course, again, always change this value. And here we go. And then afterwards, if you want to change, maybe we're going to just also add a background. So changing the background, last thing we can do is, again, put over right there. And we're going to put a black background on the whole image. So now we have our shape. And, as I explained before, I wanted to create this kind of Art Deco pattern. This is because I really like style of music, electro swing. So I wanted to create some audio reactive sketch that would fit well on an electro swing beat. So kind of trying to go with part of 1920s kind of style, but also with some electro music. So this is basically the whole concept of electro swing. So mixing electro and swing music. So I wanted to do the same thing with the pattern right there. So we're going to make something that's going to react to the beat of the music, but also with very simple animations. So the first animation that we created in this one, is just the opening animation, if you like. Just basically a circle. So how can we achieve this one? So very, very simple. It's by using this circle right there. So this circle, we're going to animate it with a chop. So we are going to use a pattern chop right here. And we're going to use a sine wave, but not use the whole cycle of the sine wave. So we're going to use half of the sine wave and also phase it like that. So as you can see, I'm going from 1 to 0 with this half of a sine wave. Uh, of course, the length right now is 1000 frames. So this is I'm right now uh, I'm on a sketch that's running on 1800 frames. So basically, this is a very long time because it's 60 frames per second. So 1800 is 30 seconds. So 600 is 10 seconds basically. So this is more than 10 seconds. We're going to use much less than that. For now, let's put it at 5 seconds. Maybe it's not enough. We're going to try to match with the song afterwards. But what happens right there, if I just if you can look at the shape right there, as you can see, it goes down to 0 and then back to 1, and the shape repeats since its length is shorter than the length of the timeline. So how can we address that? What we can do right there is extend right. Right now it says cycles, so basically it's just going to cycle through uh, this sine wave. But we can use a hold. So hold is going to go back to, is going to stay at 0. Oh, and I just looked at this one. It's not going to 0. It's going to -1. And also, I don't want it going to from 1 to -1, but from 0 to 1. So I can basically change this thing here and bring it like that. So basically, I just change the face of the sine wave. So as you can see, you can navigate through that. So 0.25 is going to go further in sine wave. So I'm going to keep this shape. And also the amplitude is going to be 0.5 instead of 1. And the offset is going to be 0.5 too. So like that. And final thing that I'm going to do is use a math, because I like to keep something from 0 to 1 right there. But then I like using math so we can change the range right there. It's more of a personal preference. You can basically change the range to match the size of the radius you want to achieve right there. But I think it's a little more flexible and hassle-free to use the range from the math job. But this is more to your liking. And using it all, because you're never sure if you need to add extra info right there. And also, let's change the name of the channel to something more relevant than just channel 1. Maybe circle rad. So this is going to be our radius, and we're going to use a chop reference right there. Okay, so this is good. Now we're at 1, so the circle is basically at 0. We were stopping at 0.4, so in there I'm going to change, so it's at 0.4. So yeah, I changed it to 0.4, and now if I hit play, as you can see, the circle grows for 300 frames and then stops and stays at 1 until the end of the timeline. So that's good. So to add our music, we're going to use a audio file in. And also I will already add a audio device out. And if I press play, you can hear the default file right here. So let's change that for the music we've selected. I use this music. You can use anyone you want. So basically you can choose the music you want. And now if I press play, so that's really cool. But first thing we're going to do is just select this and press on bypass. So if I hit play, you won't hear the music all the time. So now to animate our shape, we're going to use an element from the palette, which is the audio analysis element right here. What this does is analyze the audio file that you will send to it and give you a lot of info on, for example, as you can see in this null, maybe it's going to be, for example, the kick and the snare. So, or the low, mid, high. So basically you will be able to catch different beat elements from the music. So since it's an MP3 file without any, I don't have any information on where the beat hits or when the snare comes in. You can basically either I do it by hand and press on a button every time I hit the snare, or I can use this audio analysis element and play with the different parameters to try to catch exactly the element I want in the beat to trigger the animation. But as you can see with this, this piece is very easy. As you can see right there. And if I just play, because right now, of course, it doesn't have the file. If I just press play,
Here's a dance.
so if I just play bypass right here, you can see that there's a, on the rhythm that you just heard, you can hear the kick and the snare detection. So this is what we're going to use to animate our most of our elements. So first off, let's use the snare detection to animate these little bars right there. So basically to animate our circles. So to do that, we're going to use a select element just to create right there. So select. So select element will give us the ability to just select exactly what we want. So we're going to use only snare detection. And we're going to use a filter since this element goes from 0 to 1 very quickly. What this does is filters value. So on a certain width, so in this is going to be in seconds. 1 second is extremely long. Let's go for something a little bit smaller. Yeah, 0.1. And as you can see, you will see these elements going from 0 to 1 without any values in between, but you will see this one change. So as you can see, it's, even though it's really fast, but it's the snare, so of course it's going to happen real fast. But you can see that this value changes from 0 to 1. You can use this to animate an element. Instead, this one is basically unusable because you have to state open or close. So that's it for the filter. Now let's just add this to our transforms and circle right here. So to do that, we're going to use multiple math. So let's use a math right here. So every math is going to be associated with the different angles that we're trying to achieve. So as you saw, the circles all had different angles. So we're going to do exactly that. So this one is going from 0 to 9. So since this is going from 0 to 1, let's bring it to 9. This one's 4.5. And this one is minus 4.5. So here you go. And then we can just connect these elements. Not this one, here. And here we go. So as you can see on the animation, when there will be a snare detected, you can see that it animates. It's really, really fast still, so maybe we can filter it a little more. Maybe going to 0.2. That's cool. Yeah, like that, I think this is better. So you can play with these values. Just putting in inputting some of the values I had before, but you can basically change your filter with, see what fits best for you. This one is, I think it's really good enough. So let's move on and go to our last element, which is going to be our low. So this is the low element right here, is more of the bass from the music. So if I put it right back, you will be able to hear it. So, oh yeah, just sorry. So if you want to restart the music, you have to cue back to 0. Otherwise, it's going to basically keep playing where it went from, even if you go back to the first place, right there. So I queued back to 0. So if you look at the element right here,
Here's a dance you ought to do.
so as you just heard and saw, the beat you heard on the low is what we're going to use to animate the circles right there. So this is not this circle, it's the circle right here. So this circle, you can choose pretty much a value you want, but I used it to go from 0.01 to 0.05. Right now it's at 0.02. So you can basically change it to the value you want, but let's just get the value of the low and play with the math range to change this. So I'm going to use select and bring this one right here and select the channel name low. There you can also use a filter, but since it's not a value going exactly from 0 to exactly 1, and there is going to be some values in the middle, I think it's more interesting to just use the value in that way. But I'm still going to use a math to change the range from 0 to 1 to maybe, like I said, 0, 0 to 0.05. And I can change here the value of the radius.
Let me introduce to you posing. Everybody pose. Here's a dance you ought to do. Let me introduce to you posing. Everybody pose.
So this is basically the effect that we created in the sketch I showed you before. I also added a few other elements. I added a simple spinning by the end. So
Everybody pose. Here's a dance you ought to do. Let me introduce.
you can try adding this on your side. I think this tutorial is long enough, and this is more about the tiling and creating the audio reactive effect, and also how to create these shapes. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please tell me in the comments if you have any questions, and also if you want more of these tutorials. And I'll see you in the next one.